Hello everybody, so today I'm going to be going over how to do multiple impacts on a shield or any objects. So you would get something like this. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Micah for helping me out with this. But yeah, please let me know if you have any questions, comments, or you're just curious about something. Write it down in the comments and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is separate my folders, which just something basics. I have a blueprint, materials, and textures. For the textures, in case you actually want to do something with your shield, I'm only going to do the impact part for this video. I'm not going to do like the art part. You can do whatever you want on your shield. It's up to you. But I'll show you like what's the steps that I took to actually get this working. So it's going to be separated to three parts. The first part is going to be the interface. So you're going to do a blueprint and blueprint interface. I'm going to call this shield interface. When you dive in here, you'll see a new function, which is here. I'm going to call this impact point. And for the inputs, I just want a vector. And I'm going to call this location. Right, and that's it for this part. Next, it will be a blueprint class. And for this one, it's basically, imagine having three separate parts that's going to connect to be one different effect. So what I mean by that is the interface is part one, which is going to connect to this blueprint, which this will be more of a, like the impact. And then you're going to make another one, which is going to be the art side. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'm going to call this impact. So over here, I'm going to add a sphere. And wait, I'm going to kill the collision. No collision. Okay, so now I want to actually delete all the events and bring in the interface event. So how you can do that is go to the class settings, and there you have interface, and under implemented interface, you will find a list of interfaces, and you just call the shield one, and you will have it here. So from that point on, you right-click, implement event, and you will have an event impact point, which is a custom event. So this is basically breaking it into three separate parts. Yes, you can actually just do it through a custom event, but there is another attribute to this, which is the impact point message, which is the ending for the next one. Okay, so as far as this is concerned, I am going to do the impact material on this sphere. So what you're doing is basically you're having the impact point material to be just this thing, and then you would add that on top of each other, like on top of the spheres. So every time you spawn one of these, every time you shoot the shield, it will spawn a new sphere on top of it. And that's how you get the different materials. Okay, for this one, I'm just going to go to the material folder, make a material, call this impact. So this is going to be like a simple one. So you're only doing the impact here. I'm just going to do a circle that expands through the blueprint. So it would be a hold position. If you hold 4 and click, you'll get a vector and convert that to a parameter and call that POS for position, because this is the position of the actual impact point that you're going to call on in the blueprint. So next is a sphere mask, and A goes to the wall position, B goes to the vector. And for the radius and hardness, it's up to you if you actually want to control that. As far as the hardness, for the radius, I am going to actually have a scalar for it. So if you hold S and click, you'll get a scalar parameter. And I'm going to call this radius. So you're going to use a blueprint scalar parameter, set scalar parameter value, to call on this through the blueprint. Okay, next is going to be a power. So right now, this is what you will have. If you put this at 50. So, and that's basically what you want. So imagine like having this as the impact point, but you're gonna kind of do a flip where you'll see a black in the center, so it would look more of a ring. So next I am going to multiply it with another scalar. We call this fade for types. Next, I am going to make a clamp because I want to clamp the values. And then throughout how this will look, it's like this. And for the next one, it's going to be a sign. After that, I'm just going to view it. So now you see something like this. Then I'm going to multiply it with the power. Okay. So at this point, you can actually multiply it and add another scalar called emission. So I'm going to do that. So this is to control the intensity of it. And I'm going to just do like 50 for now and call this emission. Or call it emissive actually. So now I can actually see it more. I'm going to multiply it again. And again, you don't have to do this. This is just me doing this for the sake of just changing the color and the intensity of it. Next, I'm doing another color parameter. Add that into emissive. And for the multiply before the emissive, I will add that into opacity because I don't want any of that to affect the opacity. And I'm changing this to unlit and translucent and save. So now, change the color. Let's say a bit of blue. So now this is going to be how my impact works. Okay. If I go back into here, make this into an instance. Gotta change this into a plane to be able to see it. But you're basically animating both at the same time, so it gets to a certain point, it disappears while it expands. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the impact one and just add it in here. So it's okay if you don't see anything. It's no issue. So the next thing you're going to do is basically have a timeline that you'll add on into your into those parameters, so you'll be able to see what's going on. So if we go back to the event graph, I'm going to go create create dynamic material instance and the sphere. So this would basically have the sphere in it already, so you don't really need to change anything in it. Next, you will add a set scalar value. No, not that. I think it's set parameter, set vector parameter. Oh, actually, I think, yeah, set vector parameter value. Yes. So at this point, you would want to have the POS. So this comes from this thing, because this is determining the position of where the actual sphere spawns. So if I go into here, now the location will be this. Okay, next I will add a timeline and do play from start. Because if you do play, it will play it when you actually start the game, and you don't want that. Next, you're gonna dive in here, make this into one, add a track, a float, add a key. This will be 0 by 0. Add another key, and this will be 1 by 10. So this will allow it to actually animate over time. So I'm going to compile this. Okay. Going back into the event graph. Oh, forgot to rename it. I'm just going to call this hit. I go back to the event graph. This is what we have, and this is what's going to control the actual animation of the material. So I'm going to take this into, I'm going to drag from the return value and do a set scalar parameter value. And I'm going to take the update. You're going to copy this again and add this one here. Okay, so for the fade, you want that to be here. So what I'm going to do, just copy it. That's for the fade, and that one is going to be for the radius. So that way you can actually animate this over time, and you'll see the result in a second. And you're actually going to multiply this, like if you do the multiplication, to here by 200. Gonna compile. Okay. Oh, right. Duh. The return value for the target needs to actually be from the material instance. So now that should be good. Okay. Okay, so this part is done. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back and make the next material. I'm gonna call this art underscore shield. Okay, so before I go forward, the event impact point is basically the interface. So if you double click this, it'll actually takes you to the interface that we made in the beginning. So what you're doing is basically having the interface from here into the impact point and then taking that into the next one. So, sorry, not this one, but taking the impact into the next one. So in here, I'm going to add a, where is it? Sphere, and a collision sphere. And then I'm going to add another sphere, because this is your, this is, for example, where you want to add your fancy material for the actual thing. So if you want to change it here to this thing, for example, you can do that. So this is why I've separated into three different parts. So the impact part could be something that you control independently, and the art part, or which is how it looks, can be controlled independently. So yeah, actually, I'm just gonna kill this and just have something like this. What I want to do is actually increase the size of the sphere to be exactly like the size. Sorry, increase the size of the collision sphere to have the same size as the sphere itself. So that way you wouldn't really notice if like it's hovering a little bit here and there. Okay, that looks good. Oh, so for the sphere mesh itself, you want to come down to the collision preset and set that to no collision, and go to the collision sphere and set that to block all. So that way anything that you would hit this with, it will spawn something. Okay, so for this one, I'm also going to delete all of these. And let's see. You do right click on the collision sphere and add on component hit. So now you would have the on hit. So any object that would actually hit this, it will be any object that would hit this will actually spawn the impact points for the shield itself. So one way to do that is actually, you see where the hit is? Right click and split structure. So you have hit location, hit time, hit distance, and so on. I will just be working with the hit impact point. First, I am gonna add a child component. So this child actor component is what you're going to use to actually get the actor class from the impact. So what I mean by that, it says here child actor component, child actor class, and this is where you're going to take your impact and add it into here. So if I type in impact, all right, so now these three are actually inherited by the last one. So everything that you would need, you will have in the art shield one. Okay, next thing I'm gonna add is the sphere. From here, I'm gonna add a get world scale. And so the get world scale is for the actual shield size, so it would match every impact point. It would be the same size, so you wouldn't need to resize this every time you shoot, or every time it's every tick basically. I'm gonna do a make transform. So here we'd have the scale and then the new relative transform here. Next is the child actor. No, not this one. If you uncheck context sensitive and do child actor, it's get child actor. So you'll see the target and the child actor. And as I said in the beginning, the impact, if I turn this back on, the impact point message is the last thing that you will basically need. So now, after adding all of these in, I'm going to take the location point and add it into hit impact point. Save this. And now if we take, like, for example, this one, and I'm just gonna go into here, say actual this, and just expand it. Okay, let's actually test that out. So now, as you see, every hit is basically getting triggered, and yeah. One thing I do want to mention, which I'm going to make another video for, is sorry, just gathering my thoughts. So there are different ways to actually do the impact point. So this way is, I call the expensive way, because you're kind of layering a lot of the impact on top of each other and not making it disappear. So what I mean by that, if I go back here and do play from here, if I turn on shader complexity, every time I'm actually hitting the shield, it's not disappearing away. So you'll get to a point, well, it just racks up on top of each other, and it will kill performance for you. So one thing I would say to do is, in the impact point, you destroy the actor. So you delay by a second. Delay, and you set it to 1 second. And you do actor or destroy actor. So I'm not 100% sure if it's supposed to be here or the art one, but I think it's this one because you're not supposed to destroy the art one. So let's test that out. Again, it's all trial and error. Okay, that looks right. Let's see. Yep. So technically it wouldn't really go into the performance heavy. You can also, if you want to make it shorter, it's up to you. But yeah, that's on how to actually do the multiple impacts.